This is Hollywood. Matías Bombal with him. Roadside Attractions offers Touched with Fire, a love story of self-discovery by director Paul Dalio that is complex and beautiful at the same time. The picture opens and we're introduced to a non-successful poet, Carla, played by Katie Holmes, at a reading from her book of prose entitled Faded at a bookstore. She reads from her book with little response from those gathered, who only offer polite applause. We're also introduced to a man in a different location, Marco, played by Luke Kirby, who, in addition to writing lyrics to rap songs, has a vivid creative streak, which is fueled in part by his manic behavior, as he is bipolar. His dad, George, played by Griffin Dunn, arrives for a visit and is concerned by his condition.
What happened to your apartment?
What do you mean?
I mean, your books are all over the floor.
Yeah, I decided that I liked it better this way. They're all placed in different specific locations. It actually works out really great because you can just walk up to any one of them. There's a good variety of reading environments. It just seems stupid somehow to just like want to put a bunch of books together in one place. That just seems like in the box thinking to me. Do you know what I mean?
You been taking your medication?
I found that they really weren't working for me. You know, it kind of constricted my emotions. You know, like a dried up ocean.
As you saw there, Marco's concerned that the medications will not allow him to feel full emotions and has stopped taking them, much to the concern of his father. We also see concern in a relationship between Carla and her mother.
Remember that? That was right before I got sick. Remember? What was I like?
What do you mean? You don't remember?
No.
You were the same.
Mom, I need you to be honest with me. You're the only one who knew me back then, and I need you.
That's not true. There's a lot of people in your life who knew you then.
What was I doing when it happened?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the doctor said that something has to trigger it. So what was I doing?
No. There was nothing that we could have done. It was going to happen no matter what.
No. She said I must have done something to trigger it because
didn't.
I am
You
not the
didn't.
same person,
You
Mom.
didn't.
I
You
am
are
not
the
the
same.
same.
You're
Would you please just stop lying to me?
Okay, Carla, you are acting really hyper right now, and are you sleeping okay? What's going on?
I'm just trying to figure out who I am, you know, because I don't feel like myself anymore. Even when I go off the medication, I don't feel like myself.
Okay, you know what, honey? I think we need to get Dad because he can really help.
No, Mom, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. I won't yell again, please.
Okay,
Don't get
you're
Dad.
right. Sit down, and I have a really good plan, okay? Listen to my plan. You're gonna spend the night tonight, and then tomorrow morning, first thing, we'll go to the hospital and get your file. See, they have a file of everything about your illness, and then you can learn anything you want. You can ask anything, okay? We'll figure all this out, okay?
Actress Christine Leahy there as Sarah, Carla's somewhat rigid and concerned mother. Carla, too, suffers from manic behavior, and before long, Carla and Marco find each other in the same institution, and they fall in love. They understand each other completely, but this doesn't bode well with the doctors and staff who try to keep them separate, as do their parents. The movie is told in seasons, with a lower third graphic announcing summer, fall, winter, and so on. The story is compelling, and the performances are truly great. The photography by Kristina Niklova and Alexander Stanishev is beautifully composed. The use of color and light and dark sequences in the movie are superb, with the two principals at their happiest with brighter colors and lighting and at their most oppressed in darker colors and lighting. This is a first outing for Paul Dalio as a filmmaker. He himself has suffered from the bipolar disorder and was inspired to stay medicative and creative by author K. Jameson, a doctor who wrote a book in 1996 entitled Touched with Fire, manic depressive illness and the artistic temperament. The movie's title comes from the book, but the narrative is entirely Dalio's. He also composed the music and edited the film. Here, director Dalio and Dr. Jameson spoke to us about the importance of this movie as a ray of hope for those with artistic temperament that suffer from manic depression.
My motivation for making this film was once I got bipolar, then living with the stigma of it, and then when I came across Kay's book, it allowed me to see the beauty of it. Kay's book, for me and for many other people, doctors and patients, redefined what this thing is. It wasn't a clinical book. It wasn't done in a clinical way or a medical way. It was a poetic book that was done in poetry and art, and it sort of, redefined completely what this thing is in a controversial way as well as a beautiful way, and it's almost opening up Pandora's box.
I think one of the most extraordinary things about the film is it does walk the line between, I think, avoiding romanticizing a very bad, very often deadly illness that causes enormous suffering, not only to the individuals who have the illness, but to their family members. But at the same time saying, look, it's really complicated and it's fascinating and it has huge contributions to make. And what Paul has done is say, these are really interesting people, really gifted people, really have a gift, but they also have great pain and suffering.
But what I wanted is to create parents and doctors that if there were well-intentioned doctors or parents out in the audience who were able to see themselves in these parents and doctors, they would be able to have some understanding of how the two characters, that Marco and Carla, these two bipolar people, saw them, so that hopefully leaving the theater, they'd be able to understand each other and each other's point of view and perspective and create a bridge between them instead of a wall between them.
A doctor's job is not to get inside somebody's head and so empathize with them that they don't recognize the suffering. They don't recognize the fact that this is a progressive disease. It is, in an ideal world, the doctor's job to understand what patients are going through. And I think, again, Paul's done this very well of saying, understand that I have something that's of value to me, possibly, and I hope of value to society and to other people. Don't think that it's going to be easy for me to give this up. Understand that I'm going to have to figure out some way of keeping what I can from this without giving it up, but also without giving up my life or giving up my sanity. The complication is really well portrayed in Paul's film because the people he's describing and showing are people who suffer. I mean, it's real suffering. It's not just kind of dramatic suffering. It's very real suffering.
If they go from thinking that they were experiencing some kind of divine illumination and they're looking outside their hospital window to see the stars pulsing spirals of fire across the sky, just like Van Gogh did, and they know that the most beloved image of the sky came from his sanitarium window, if they come down and the doctor's telling them that's now a disease that we're going to crush, instead of that's a gift, that's a potential gift that we'll learn to nurture, and we just won't let it burn your mind down, but we'll learn to sustain it in a way that is enriching. How much more receptive is a patient going to be to treatment? The viewer sees these characters who are both bipolar and who are artists because in addition to it being a very real thing, there are these studies of the actual genetic correlation between the creativity gene and the bipolar gene. It changes everything from a patient who's ashamed of it as it being a disorder, a labeled dysfunctional, aspect of their humanity, to it being something they could be proud of, that they can find some kind of meaning in and some kind of purpose, with, and something that the public can appreciate the beauty of and respect, the people who have it. It completely blazes away all of this, clinical, diagnostic print, rigidly labeled in permanent ink on these medical books. It just blazes all that away. So what you have is the idea that these people are touched with fire.
Not only was I touched, I was very moved by this, and could see the important value of a movie like this reducing the stigma of this illness in popular culture. It is told as a dramatic entertainment, but remains a powerful insight into a world that clouds so many lives. Great for those that have manic depression, and even better for those who do not, in order to understand it. In no way is this a documentary. It is an excellent, dramatic movie. I suggest you see it. The Motion Picture Association of America has given this an R rating. This is your pal, Matías Bombal, bidding you a fond farewell.